along there. I'll skip my little intro and stuff and just in and try to get what we can out of the way. Could be demons. I think it's from Restream to do with my system. With the next chapter of Titans, the wonderful, in air quotes, creationist book on dinosaurs. And they're still getting hung up on kinds. They have an old 1996 piece from Russell Grigg that they write on naming animals all in a day's work, where our creationists insist. And by the way, this article is available in Romanian for as well. And anyway, Grigg argues back in 1996 how easy it would be in the kinds, restricting everything to kind of farmyard animals. And so he decides it would only have taken Adam about an hour to go through it all. Now, press on down to Answers in Genesis with Andrew Kuliowski, who, because that's not CMI, him, but from a little bit later on in time, 2005, Kuliowski is kind of aware of the idea that there's going to be way more kinds than what they're dealing with. By Woodmarap is now on the field. He was just coming on the scope when Grigg was in play. But 9 years on, that's kind of become the archetype where we're now talking in terms of 10,000 kinds, maybe more. Woodmarapi is even a little bit vague, and we all know the Ark Encounter eventually whittled that down to 1,400. But anyway, by this new definition, with a whopping 5 seconds per name hypothesized, why, gosh, Adam would only take, or rather a young Adam, since he would have only been a few days or weeks old at this stage, 3 hours and 35 minutes to count, to name all the animals. Simple, easy peasy. Would have been so nice to have a list. Wouldn't that have been nice to have a nice Hebrew list of all the kinds that Adam named, so we could find out what name he gave to echidnas or Deinonychus or whatever the hells were supposedly going to be eventually on the Ark? We don't know. And that's not really gotten all that much better in the years since. It intrigues me that we get a situation like that. By the way, my chat window isn't popping up in that either, so I don't know whether or not anybody is seeing the stream or not. So I apologize completely to my pathetic thing, although the signal looks quite nicely now. But they've got some circuit problems with their end about getting the chat window in place. Now, all that's going to be relevant in the new book on the Ark Encounter, all the mess and muddle that Kuliowski have in Sarfati and next one, they actually do up to about 60%, 50% of their sources are just recycling CMI creation, like the Grigg piece. This time they do let leak a thing where they're trying to dive into that ornithischian versus Saurischian bird hip, lizard hip, which has been plaguing creationist apologetics certainly since the Henry Moore's Dwayne-ish era, which is they get confused about the fact that, okay, the bird hip dinosaurs, ornithischians, are not the origins for birds. Those come from the lizard hip dinosaurs, which ever since Deinonychus time, Ostrom and others, they would realize that just means the hip, the bone is kind of doing that, and boop, you've got a bird-like hip struck in a lizard hip dinosaur. That clearly is still not cutting it for Sarfati and Tay. So they cite a piece from Macaloso and Shop from 28, so you'll be able to get all of that, where they're claiming, Sarfati and Tay, for lizard hip dinosaurs to have independently evolved a bird-like hip just once would be a miracle, much less 5 times! Exclamation mark. Well, you can read the paper yourself and see all the wonderful detail where they're going into the breakdown of what exactly is going on with these structures, and also a detailed breakdown of the hip structure form that leads from theropods into birds. No new genes are involved. It's involving tweaking and bending and slight shape of things. They look too closely. They're not doing creation archetypes. On action again. Well, got a little warning, but the counter is still running. So I'll just slip ahead quicker and call attention to the fact that on page of our book, bless their little, they show a skeleton of Deinonychus that clearly shows that bird hip layout in its systematics, but they don't call attention to it in any of the details. So out of sight, out of mind yet again. Part 2 relates to some more typically pompous Jonathan Sarfati. In 2023, he put a piece up which was grumping about a Christian geologist, Jason Short, and how he was accepting evolution. And at the end, there's a link to, quote, a believing geologist who was once like Jason Short, unquote, regarding a certain Everett Coates from 2005, saying how he was embarking on sharing his wonderful insights, which turns out to be not a fantastic lot. He's got postings 2007, 8, 12, 13, and 16, which is a whopping 5. One is claiming abraded rock bits are supposedly evidence for the flood. Another one repeating the soft tissue trope by 2008. Another one that channels Steve Austin from 2012. And another one channeling John Sanford, a genetic entropy guy from 2013. And then one of my favorites, 2016, the most recent one, channeling the silly Chinese Genesis claims, where supposedly the Chinese language has embedded Genesis and the discussion of flood and Adam and Eve and the tree of life and a whole bunch of stuff in there. That's going to be coming up in volume 2 of The Rocks Were There. So Coates is going to be a little peripheral footnote that pops up regarding his channeling. But 2016 now is 8 years, and what fabulous insights are we getting from our Christian geologist Everett Coates? None that I can see so far, but hope springs eternal. So our signal's still running along. I have no idea whether anybody has seen for the eccentricities where their signal width is there. And what can I say? I was just the Dapper Diamond did a video where he's going to Jay Bird, who is an ice pundit, who does cosmology and other stuff, which might be discussed. To so much of their stuff, what was looking at astronomers on the idea that the sun might be shrinking back in the 1970s. Periphery of ICR politics. Then again, he was doing in his video. Else can was it dates back to that the archive go back to 1996. So unless you had the hard copy of it, I'm willing to stipulate the possibility that the quote is real. It doesn't seem all that circumstance, but why worry about something in 1978 in 2019 in the case of the print version that he was trotting out and how recent the lecture is? All of that's going to be alluded to in the new book, because there's so much on the cosmology issue, trying to keep up with the coming material from the James Webb Telescope, which pushes things out to the early nature of the universe. Naturally, the creationists are trying to latch on to every possibility that there's problems coming from the observations, but technical literature is not really helping them. So it'll be a fun thing in betwixt now when we finish the chapter and get the book out, as to how actively the young Earth creationists really try to address the material that's coming in from the science field on these issues. Spoiler alert, don't hold your breath. That cosmology chapter, of course, will be talking about the Big Bang. It'll be talking about modern physics and the occasional doubts that creationists try to push up on that. The nothing burger of their alternative physics. The chapter would be called Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Stars, because Jason Lyle is involved in this in a great deal. Talking about solar system formation, including our own solar system and the various planets and moons and light and meteoric dust and the origin of comets, and a lot of this stuff has been circulating for years and years and years, and an awful lot of retread stuff at Answers in Genesis and ICR, of where this bit of trawling back for really old authority quoting is kind of necessary, because the actual science field, the creationist movement, is not making any headway at all in cosmology, just as they aren't making any headway in paleontology or geology or genetics or any of these other areas. And so all they have is their little in-house publications and videos to bang the drum about how things are going their way all the time. And when you look at it from the side, you realize, nope, that's not even slightly true. So still not getting any indication of a chat window, and we had glitches on sharing material, so I'll skip putting up little video plugs and stuff. Signal looks perfectly fine, but it's a glitch at our Restream end. So we got about a little minute material in. Hopefully this video will finalize properly, and I'll be able to get the links in, and we'll be able to maybe have a better connection next week. Everything is kind of weird. One of the local TV channels has had their over-the-air signal has disappeared because they built their transmitter. Well, their predecessor, I think originally it was CBS, and then it switched to AB in the 1970s or so. They did a channel flip. But all the other TV channels are up on what's called Tower Mountain on the side of town. But KXLY's tower is up on Mount Spokane on the north side of town. So it's pointing in a completely different direction. And during our recent little glitches with super cold temperature and all the rest, they've had problems with their transmitter. So it's off the over-the-air broadcast now for like about a week. Anyway, such is life. Everybody stay safe. Guard against rampaging penguins. If you've got other problems that are concerned, stay safe, and hopefully we'll get to see you next week in a little better signal bit, and they'll unglitch ourselves at Restream. So see you next week.